Hey, this is Tim Sheridan, writer for Masters of the Universe Revelation, Teen Titans Academy, Shazam, and the upcoming Batman The Long Halloween Part 1. You're listening to Spoiler Country.
Spoiler Country! The cast is absolutely amazing. I mean, Phil LaMarr is playing Hero. I mean, there's so many amazing actors in this, and I mean, I think it's really cool that when you found out who Evil was playing Evil Lynn, you changed the dialogue to fit in, to make it sing for the actress who's going to be doing it. And
well,
I was thinking,
can I stop you for a second and just say, I don't even think of that as in my mind, the way that the situation worked. It wasn't me going in and adjusting the dialogue to her. It was her speaking to me. It was her work that I heard it all differently because of everything I knew about her as an actor. I don't know her personally, I didn't know her. I couldn't have spoken to her personally, but or to who she was as a person. I didn't know her, but I knew her work, and it changed everything. So I in that situation, it's weird to say it, I guess, but all credit goes to her. It was only because of her work up to that point that changed how that, that dialogue worked to match, her abilities and her talents.
And how about something, like I said, you have so many great voice actors, and I mean, it's a who's who of voice acting. Are there other characters who, like when you found out that Alan Oppenheimer is being Mossman, that you thought, I got to beef up Mossman now because I got literally Alan Oppenheimer, who's Skeletor from the original show, now playing Mossman, that now I got to do, was there other instances where you felt something had to get beefed up because the actor was so cool who was doing that role now?
Well, I mean, look, the easiest one for me is Lena, but the fact is, when we knew that we had, that Mark Hamill was going to play Skeletor, that, I think understandably, right? It makes you feel so safe. I'd worked with Mark before on Justice League Action when he played Joker. I'd also worked with Diedrich Bader, who played Booster Gold on Justice League Action, which was a go-to character for me that because of, and that's another example, because of Diedrich's work on that character, I couldn't get his voice out of my head. And I don't mean just the sound of it. I mean the way he embodied that character. Couldn't get it out of my head. I still can't to this day. Every time I write a comedic sort of, for lack of a better word for Booster Gold, buffoonish kind of character, which he kind of was on that show, although I think he's more than that. He, that informed everything. And I couldn't get it out of my head. I kept wanting to write more and more of him playing that character. So he's playing King Randor, and which is a very different character than Booster Gold, but I know that guy. And I know what he can do, and I never for a minute thought he's not going to bring something amazing to King Randor. No, he's going to do an incredible job. Just like Mark Hamill, you're going to get a fantastic rendition of Skeletor, an embodiment of Skeletor. And Alan Oppenheimer, I mean, the legacy. So, how lucky are we? How lucky are the fans to get to have these actors playing these characters that mean so much to so many people?
And also the amount of side characters that show up in He-Man over the original series is immense. I mean, are there surprise characters like Fisto could show up? Is there Extendor going to show up? Rio Blast? I mean, are there going to be some surprise characters that are going to be like, holy crap?
I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to any of that, I translate that to I know, and I won't tell you.
Okay, can you either wink, grab your ear?
That kind of juicy gossip to folks like to Kevin to reveal to the world about sort of what we can expect from the show. I in terms of plot and characters and things like that. For me, I just like any opportunity, and thank you for giving me one here, to talk about what a joyful experience it was working on that show, and then the joyful experience of getting to revisit it with these prelude comics for Dark Horse that will lead into the story in the series. It's nothing but huge joy that I feel. And I don't want to get away from this topic without being very clear about, not only I've talked about my obsession with Rob David at Mattel and Ted Biaselli at Netflix, who are just two of the greatest executives I've ever seen or worked with. But I can't get out of an interview without telling the world what they already know. But I am happy to add my voice to the pile to say that Kevin Smith is, if not just the kindest and most generous human being I have ever met in my life, let alone in Hollywood, but also one of the hardest working and most talented people I've ever met. I didn't expect any of that. I thought, this guy's a big Hollywood guy, and I didn't know what to expect. I think I cynically thought, he was a guy who was going to lend his name to a project and we would do all the work, or, things like that happen in Hollywood, not with Kevin. Kevin is, I can't say enough about the man. He is just so generous, so smart, so talented, joyful, joyous, spreads that joy to everyone else. It's the thing I knew I liked the guy, from his public persona, but his public persona, it turns out, is very much who he is in private. He's just a funny, kind, smart, talented guy who made going to work absolutely one of the best times of my life.
And if you're listening, Kevin Smith, come to the show, goddammit. You're invited several times. So when you're for He-Man, I don't, you probably can't tell me, or maybe you can. If you do know the answer, maybe twitch your nose as a yes. Is it set up for a particular season 2 already that we are thinking about or know about coming, or is this considered a one season in completion?
All right, now I have an itch on my nose. Now I don't want you to take that as a signal of any kind, because the truth is I have no idea. That's so above my pay grade. I don't know. Okay. I will tell the way I can answer that question is to say that if they called me, I think you can tell from my previous answer that I would waste no time in rejoining that amazing group of people. So if let's hope that people tune in and that it provides an opportunity for us to go back to it. Because that's the only way these things happen. I mean, the only way we get more DC animated movies or Transformers shows or Masters of the Universe episodes is if people watch it. And especially on Netflix, watch it the first weekend it comes out. They're really watching the numbers. They want to see the fans tuning in and to know that there's a fan base for it. So and I mention this because I see there's always a lot of people online when I have a movie coming out, that for on home video, and they talk about they just with casually will say, oh, where can I download this for free? Give me a link to where I can, it's just it's so grotesque to somebody like me to see that being just discussed openly the way they do. Frankly, I don't want them to discuss it privately either, because I don't do that.
Right.
You don't get these movies and these shows if you steal them. The only way they actually cost money to make. And I know you think these are big giant companies that are making them, and they have all kinds of money. They only have as much money as you pay them for their products. Companies go out of business all the time. Companies, right. And so please, kids, pay for the thing. You have to if you want it, or don't, but then don't steal it.
Same thing with comic books, people. What you need to do, buy the fucking comic book. You want the comic book to make another issue. It's not okay just to download it.
That's how you get more. It's the only way you get more. If everybody downloads it, and you think, I know people think, oh, well, not everybody's downloading it, so it doesn't matter if I do or not. that kind of mentality of one person can't make a difference. I'm sorry, I don't want to live in that world.
Yeah. So yeah, and same thing too. Once again with comic books as well. if you're one of those people who want something to exist, because there's a lot of people I always hear, because I'm in a fan group shit like that, is that they'll talk about a particular comic book character and they're like, I love that character, I want him. It's like, okay, well, the issue came out, did you buy it? Well, no, I just kept up on what was happening because I didn't want to, I didn't want to buy it right. And I was like, no, you idiot, buy the damn comic book. That's how you get your character to show up again. Don't wait for maybe a compendium 20 years down the road. Buy it now.
I had a review recently, I think it was on a kind of a popular site, where somebody kind of gave a negative review to something that I had done. And then I was told by someone else, because I don't frequent these things and I don't look these things up, but somebody looked at, like, there was a Reddit thread or something in which the author of that review, of that bad review, was on the thread defending themselves against, fans who really liked the book I put out. And the guy admitted that he had not read it. He said, I read a summary of it that I saw somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's what I was reviewing. And I'm just like, what? How do you have a job? Like, that's it's like 20 pages. Like, come on.
Right.
Like, just read the thing. And,
I feel the same way when I do these interviews, sometimes, there's some, with movies, sometimes I'll get like a free preview. When the comic books come out, I read the comic books. You can't spend 25 minutes to read a 20-page comic book to properly discuss something. You should just quit.
And I'll tell you what, when I was a kid, comic books were cheap, man. Like, you could get comics. I mean, I think the first comics I ever had were like a quarter. then they went up like to 50 cents. Then they went to 75 cents. And they went up to like $1. And it was like, oh, a scandal. And I get it. Like, comic books, if you're not into it, they can feel like a big expense because they're not cheap. Although, let me tell you, comic books have gotten better. Like, when I was reading comics, they were like, they were cyan, magenta, and yellow dots, right. Early on when I was a kid, and on newsprint, like really crappy newsprint, but the actual books have gotten better. So you pay for it, but you're getting something better now. But, but I get it. There's it's an investment that, if you want these things, if you like these things, you just have to figure out how to work it into your budget,
Yeah.
If you want, Netflix, you buy a Netflix subscription, you don't, even if, like, there was a time when I think HBO was like, yeah, it's okay to share passwords or something, and even then it's like, just because they, don't do that.
Right. No, I agree with you 100%. Now, another thing that you're working on is Teen Titans Academy.
Yes. My babies.
Did they come to you with the idea, or did you come to them and say, I have an idea for Teen Titans Academy?
No. So I came in, I was very fortunate I had a bit of a career in animation behind me, and the folks at DC wanted to meet some new voices and bring in some new voices. And they brought me in, and I met with some of the editors there, and a couple of them I spoke to, and we started talking about just stuff that we liked. But I did not pitch Teen Titans Academy whole cloth. It was brought to me by Mike Cotton, who's my editor at DC. He said, look, we've got this thing we want to do, Teen Titans Academy. What does that sound like to you? And so, he gave me some sort of very general materials that they had been working on, and sort of in terms of what the idea, the basic premise of it would be. The idea being that the original New Teen Titans from the Marv Wolfman, George Perez book, which I grew up on, that those characters would be reunited, and that they would be forming an academy to train the next generation of heroes. And the minute I sort of saw that, I said, okay, yes, and here's what I would do. and so then I kind of pitched on where I wanted to go with it. And then we started talking about Future State, which were some books that came out earlier this year, my first books that I did, and we sort of used those and we tied those into the Teen Titans Academy story. So it's all basically one story, and that includes the Shazam miniseries I'm doing as well. It's all part of the same story arc. So yeah, so they came to me with a premise, and I took that and ran with it, and I'm very, very grateful to them. It's been an interesting thing. I didn't know the first thing about writing comics, and some people who read me now will tell you I still don't know the first thing about writing.
Well, the other thing I noticed about you is that apparently you love massive casts. You work with Transformers in a massive cast, you work with He-Man in a massive cast, and now you got Teen Titans cameos. That's a massive cast of characters.
No, don't put this out in the world, please. I beg of you, please don't. No, let me tell you something. I get this all the time. And like, it started for me on Reign of the Supermen.
Yeah.
Reign of the Supermen was a very difficult story to adapt to be a movie because it had so many characters. It's like, oh, you're going to write. When I got to write Superman Man of Tomorrow that came out last year, it was like a relief because it's like, I only had one Superman in that movie. In Reign of the Supermen, I had 4 plus Lois, who was kind of a de facto Superman leader in that story. And then Superman, spoiler alert, comes back. So it's like, there's so many there's so many characters that there's only so much screen time, and it's very difficult to make sure that everybody shines and gets their moment. And I said, oh, I never want to do that again. And then, like you said, like it turns out, like then I'm doing, The Long Halloween Part 1 is coming out this year, and like that's a huge cast. The comics, Transformers is a huge cast. Master of the Universe, we've talked about, there's a lore. I had a whole character compendium like this big that I brought into those meetings, and then obviously Teen Titans Academy comes along. Let me tell you something. This is where you learn how stupid I am. They come to me with, the original Titans, new Teen Titans form a school to teach some new kids. I could have left it at that. But no, I'm like, okay, so we've got the faculty of the school, which are the original Titans, Starfire and Nightwing and Cyborg. And then we've got the upperclassmen at the school, which is a whole other team, the characters we've seen recently in Teen Titans, like Roundhouse and Crush and Wallace West, and then we've got freshmen, which will be these all new, brand new characters that I will create who will come in to the school. And so now I've got a book that is it's not just, people tell you when you go into comics, they're like, don't do a team book. Yeah. Team books are the hardest books to do. And I never really thought about it, but I accidentally fell into a team book that I then turned into a 3-team book. The stupidest thing I've ever done, but I'm having a ball. And I hope people will forgive me if they don't feel like every single obscure character that they want to see gets their shining moment, because I've got only so much real estate, and a lot of story to tell.
Well, speaking of not wanting people to give you who they want to see in their comic book, I want to give you a quick pitch. If you ever can find room for Firestorm and Kyle Rayner, because Kyle Rayner was in one of the Titans books, please find room for both at some point in the future. They're both 2 of my favorite characters of all time. Firestorm.
I love Kyle Rayner. I'm a big fan of Kyle Rayner.
He is my favorite character of all time.
Really?
I mean, I've been buying. I have every Green Lantern comic book going back to the 1960s, but Kyle Rayner has always been my favorite. There's something about him that they made that you got to watch him grow into being Green Lantern that just always sold me on the characters. Like the fact that I knew more about the legacy than he did always sold me.
Well, that's why I'm a big fan of the Robins, like all the Robins, any Robins, and I'm a big fan of Nightwing. What Tom Taylor is doing. Tom and Bruno are doing in the Nightwing solo series right now is fantastic, and everyone should read it. And but I love those characters we watched grow up, who have all these different facets of their personalities that we've gotten to explore. And I love characters like that. Unfortunately, when you work in a place like when there's a universe of characters like a DC, you never know what is going to be available to you and what's not available to you. I could not believe that I was going to get to use the original New Teen Titans lineup from the Wolfman Perez books, but I did. And then, we got started on that, and then they announced the Nightwing solo series. And, I was nervous about that, but I remember like when I was a kid, I would read Batman and Detective Comics at the same time, and they would have different stories going. And I never felt like it couldn't happen. I never felt like there was a problem. Like it all had to be one continuity. Like I needed to know what Batman was doing on this exact day, right? So that it made room for what he was doing in Detective Comics. I never felt that way. And so I don't feel that way now. I love what they're doing in the Nightwing book. And I think that we're a one big happy multiverse, and let's let's all tell our stories side by side, and they can all be friends, you know. And
well, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I think that in the same way between animated movies and the live action movies and the comics and everything, like there's no right way to do this, and there's no, you know, and I don't want to be in a place in a world where there's only one way to do, you know, Nightwing, or only one way to do Batman. You know, I just like to celebrate it all and have fun with it. And I like I said, I'm a big fan of the Nightwing book, and I just think Tom is one of the best writers out there, and I'm really excited to keep watching his career.
And I agree with you 100% on the different versions of the characters. I will throw out the name one more time, Firestorm. You know, he's a teenager, could fit. Anyways, so we had a great Firestorm, by the way, on Justice League Action. Did you see Justice League Action? Did you ever see that show? I saw a few of the episodes. I think when it came out, I was
PJ Byrne.
I was like 20s probably.
PJ Byrne played Firestorm, and did you watch Avatar, like Korra? Did you watch that? Like
I did watch Avatar and Korra. I did watch those shows.
PJ Byrne is a genius, and we were very lucky to have him as Firestorm, and he brought a whole new sort of fun angle, you know, to Firestorm. And Stephen Tobolowsky, you know, was the Doctor as well. So it was really great. I love the character. Which version of Firestorm though are you talking about?
The original Professor Stein, Ronnie Raymond version, pre-Doomsday Clock, where they kind of messed up that relationship in Doomsday Clock, but the original idea of it, when they were both an accident not caused by Stein.
Yep. Yeah. Good times. No, and this, you know, what did you think about all the stuff they did on the CW with Firestorm?
I think they did a great job with that. I mean, I think the only issue I had with the CW with Legends of Tomorrow is that they obviously didn't have the budget to keep using him, so they would always find an excuse to keep the two characters separate, and that was obviously a budget problem because they can't afford to keep showing the Firestorm stuff. But I think the characters did a great job. I had no issue that Ronnie Raymond
Garber as Professor Stein, right?
It was a great cast.
Yeah, I mean, and this is what I mean. Like, it's a great, big, beautiful multiverse. Let's all enjoy all these different incarnations. Can you believe we get live action Firestorm, animated Firestorm? We get comics. We get everything. It's wonderful.
Like I said, I think the only thing I missed on the Legend of Tomorrow was that they couldn't do it more for obvious reasons. And obviously he's so powerful that once he shows up, there's not a whole lot of the other characters to do. But I think the actors did a wonderful job as Firestorm. And there's a place for him in the comics as well. But for me, for me, Firestorm was, you know, from the 80s, the original version of, you know, that, and they were so fun. I always loved that character so much.
Totally. Hey, can you believe Dan Jurgens is doing Blue and Gold?
Yes, I read that not too long ago. I was very excited by that.
Oh man, I am like first in line. I can't wait. I cannot wait. That's just got my name all over it. Not because I don't have anything to do with it. I just mean as a fan, it's got my name all over it. I can't wait to read it.
There's such a wealth of great characters from DC. Like DC is basically I've been buying comic books now for about 30 plus years, and I'm primarily DC. Now it's Marvel's getting a few more because I'm loving Donny Cates' work. But there's so many wonderful characters, and there's like what Venditti was doing for a while with Hawkman before that got canceled was a wonderful comic book. Aquaman, when I think it was Dan Abnett was handling him, was just amazing how what he did with them. There's so many great. I think DC does better side characters than any other company. They're like C and B list characters are so much fun.
Well, I just love playing in that sandbox. I mean, I grew up as almost exclusively a DC kid, and I never grew out of it. And Marvel is wonderful. I love what Marvel does, and other companies in it too. But for me, it was just always going to be. It was always DC. DC just made more sense to me, and so I'm just very, very lucky at getting to get the keys to these cars, here and there when they allow me to have them.
Well, when you're creating brand new characters for your Teen Titans Academy, and I like that you're creating a lot of these characters, when you're planning who these characters are going to be, are you projecting, I would say, this character will be great as a character, or this character will be great to create for the storyline?
Well, it's both. I mean, the thing that the first inspiration for me was, who would be a great character. I mean, I came up with a whole bunch of characters, and I kind of picked who I thought all sort of filled a different role, and then assembled a group of freshmen that I thought all had something different to bring to the table. But then it's just like I just want to have some fun. You know, like for instance, one of my favorite characters who, you know, who, and this is the case with a lot of the characters in Teen Titans Academy right now, because again, there's only so much real estate. You know, a lot of them are sort of, you see them in a couple of panels here and there, and you know, we're going to get to tell more of their story, but we haven't gotten there yet. And one of them is Gorilla Greg. Greg with 2 G's, which I loved. I thought it was just a funny joke, but I loved the idea of a character who is, you know, and in his case, I don't know that I've ever talked about this, but you know, he is the nephew of Grodd.
Oh, wow, okay.
And he is sort of the you know, in Grodd's eyes, he's a disappointment because he's going to this hero academy.
Yeah.
But you know, but he's a character. He's got his own thing. He's got his, you know, he's this tech whiz kind of genius, and he's kind of most likely to succeed at school. And you know, but you know, we'll explore more about him later. But what's great about him is you get a lot about him from the visuals and from his name right away. And so he does a lot of work without me having to tell, you know, his backstory yet. We can save that for a later issue, which is fun. Another character, you know, that I came up with early on was Stitch, who is, you know, a magically animated, you know, not a human being, is a magically animated sort of a life-size ragdoll who doesn't really, who is not imbued with any particular, you know, human qualities, like, for instance, expression of gender. It's not really something that is part of Stitch's life. So it's hard to sort of take, I played a little bit in the first issue with pointing out that, you know, terms that we use for different types of people who identify different ways in terms of gender identity, you know, how there are lots of different ways that we've sort of seen over the years to do that, but that ultimately what it comes down to is how that person or that being, you know, wishes to identify. And so that was something that sort of kicked in with me early on with Stitch. And I thought it would be an interesting counterpoint when you're a kid in high school, you know, and you're watching other kids around you who are coming into themselves and experiencing their gender and what it means when they start, you know, feeling things for, you know, the same or opposite sex, or no other beings, no romantic feelings. You know, when you're seeing everybody around you going through all of that, what does it mean for someone like Stitch? What are they seeing? And so I just thought there's rich storytelling potential there. But then, so that was how it started. But then I found when writing Stitch, that Stitch was just hilarious. Like Stitch is just really has a good sense of humor and is kind of weird and funny, and you know, the voice kind of presented itself for them, and so you kind of let that lead you as you write them, as you develop them. So anyway, so there's characters like that. Then there's other characters that I needed to have that would service the larger story that I'm telling. I knew I needed a character like this, and so I kind of tried to figure out what the best versions of those would be.
See, the interesting when you talk about Gorilla Greg, I actually for a second thought he was the son of Kongorilla, if you know who that is. That's when that popped in my head. I was like, is he Kongorilla's kid? Because Kongorilla is the character that's little used, hasn't been around for a long time.
Yeah,
but I never remember him.
No, I know the name. I don't really.
He was around the guy who did Starman, Jeremy Robinson, I think is the guy's name, who for a while was writing for Justice League, had Kongorilla and Starman as two of the members. So they introduced Kongorilla. Kongorilla, I guess, was a guy who was like a hunter who got turned into a gorilla at some point, and that's my knowledge of the character.
But you know, and that's super cool, and I understand why you were led to that, because here he is, he's going to Titans Academy, so you don't get the impression that this is a character who has a legacy or pedigree of villainy behind him, and that to me is the interesting thing about a character like Gorilla Greg, is that he has made a choice that he is not going to be like his uncle. That there is something else he wants to do with his life. And in that way, he's a little rebellious, right? But, you know, the dramatic potential that exists there is the kind of stuff that interests me.
And yeah, it's because so many of those characters have so many into like Stitch. So far what I'm reading online is the rumor that Stitch is somehow tightly connected to Ragman. Is that going to be the direction we're going in, or
no?
That seems to be what people are assuming.
People just speculate because they see like the visual and they think this is, but that was like Rafa Sandoval, who is the genius, my partner, genius artist who I'm working with on Teen Titans Academy. He designed Stitch, and I think used some Ragman imagery for inspiration, but ultimately at this point, the character was not created with any, connection to Ragman. But, I'm not always going to write. This is the beauty of creating new characters in a universe, like in a continuity like that of DC, is I'm not always going to be the one writing these characters. If they catch fire, if people really like them, and if they show up again later on, some other writer is going to take them on and maybe fill in more parts of their story that I am not pitching right now, that I don't have. So it's entirely possible that someday in the future you'll see something, a connection like that. But right now, that wasn't part of the genesis of Stitch, except in terms of inspiration for Rafa and the designs.
Well, most of the Teen Titans, historically speaking, with a few exceptions, I think Beast Boy and a few others, all have a adult superhero who they're kind of connected to. Is that going to be true of Stitch and Brick and the others as well? Because most of them, Starfire, I guess not too, but the original, absolutely, Nightwing, Kid Flash are those characters.
Yeah, also, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, not Summer Zahid, who is Black Ice. I don't know that she really has a direct sort of, adult character that she's connected to. We didn't think about that. We knew that we wanted to have Alinta, who is Bolt, the speedster. We knew we wanted to have that character. Like, that was when I was creating the new class of Titans, there were only two characters that DC came to me and said, hey, we are doing this other thing, and we want you to create a character. So, like, for instance, for Summer Zahid, they said, can you create a character that will meet in the Endless Winter event, and that you will then be able to introduce as a character, as a new classmate at Teen Titans Academy? And all they said was it should be a character that has some kind of ice power or connection to ice and cold character. And so I came up with Summer Zahid, who is, hero named Black Ice, and who's a Muslim character who grew up in Brooklyn, there was that one, and there was also Alinta. They said, we want to have a speedster character, and I don't remember if DC asked me. I don't think they asked me to make the speed. I don't remember, but I don't think they suggested that the speedster would be a double amputee. But I'm not willing to just take credit for that. But it might have been me, or it might have been my editor who suggested it. And then so Alinta Bolt was born. I really loved the idea of a speedster character who ran on runner's blades, and what that sort of meant for this character. I think that there's something. This is where I think we can do good things if we do it right, if we tell the story right. And I think there's something about a character who a lot of people, and I think people my age in particular, might look at a character and think, that's a disabled person, right? And I thought it was exciting to not really live in that part of her story, because to me, she has incredible abilities. Her abilities they so outshine what a normal human mortal would have, that if anybody's disabled when compared to Bolt, it's the rest of us. I love that. I love turning something on its head a little bit like that and giving you a chance to look at somebody differently. It's not original territory. It's not stuff that's never been talked about or done before. But when we're doing a book like Teen Titans Academy, which gets some eyeballs from older fans who are, my age, who may be sort of backwards in their thinking or set in their ways, and then younger kids who don't really, who may be better about that stuff, or maybe don't have exposure to seeing different types of people. I think it gives us an opportunity to do that. I don't want to say like that we have there's all this weight of responsibility. It's a comic book,
right.
It's a fun story. But there is some satisfaction in, if we do it right, in sort of turning something that is a stereotype and a trope and a thing that has existed for probably too long, and getting to sort of spin it a different way and pointing the finger back at somebody else and saying, who's really disabled here?
Exactly.
She's got a great story, and people are going to see more of Alinta's story play out in, right now, when we're recording this today, Teen Titans Academy 2 hit shelves. And so that's out now. And so we begin to see Alinta's story begin to play out, Bolt's story begin to play out. And we'll see some more of it in a crossover with the Suicide Squad book that's happening, and then continuing into the next issue of Teen Titans Academy, issue 3. And so we get the opportunity to sort of focus and spotlight different students and different characters. And so this is sort of Alinta's time right now, which is why I'm talking about her a little bit. So go pick it up, everybody.
Well, I know one of the big mysteries obviously is Red X, and who's the new Red X. Now, as far as that character goes, is this going to come from a member of the new team, or is this a character that's going to come from outside the team that's going to be the mystery who that is?
I don't know. No, I mean, I it's a mystery, and so I want to be very careful about what I say. But a lot of the solicit text that's come out, and a lot of the articles that have been written have said that that the new Red X is a student at the academy. I think that some of that came about because there was some confusion among some of the people writing that stuff. I'm not saying it's true or not, but I will say that some of it was a little bit of confusion between, like, there is a big threat from one of the students that is on the horizon that we talked about in Future State, Teen Titans, and Shazam. And I think people equated that with Red X because Red X is involved in that story. So, I just think everybody should keep their options open. Red X is, very possibly a student at the academy. Red X might not be a student at the academy. It's all, there are ways in which it's possible Red X is not a student.
And I think everybody should just
follow the clues. Keep reading, follow the clues. Unfortunately, it is a little bit of a strict tease. I'm not going to tell you right away, because it's important to the story and what Teen Titans Academy is about. Teen Titans Academy, the academy itself, it represents something to the older Titans. This is a project that they have taken on, that they look at as something new and a way for them to pave the way for the future generations of heroes, and to continue taking care of the world by providing us with more heroes. But Red X, it's very possible that Red X sees what they're doing there very differently. So and may not be wrong. So there's lots to unpack in that, I think, but it won't be unpacked until you keep reading through Teen Titans Academy.
So you're also writing Shazam, but as you said, it ties into Teen Titans Academy. So how tightly wound are those two titles to each other?
Completely. It's all part of the same story. It's, that's the beauty of this. What I really love about Teen Titans Academy is it gives us an opportunity to break out from the main story and follow some of our other characters and focus and spotlight them for a little bit. Billy Batson is a character who was very integral to this story, as we saw in Future State. And so, his involvement in in the Academy storyline was always going to be important. It was always, his place was always going to be very important in it. And so I'm very happy they gave me the opportunity to take 4 issues of a book and be able to, explore what's going on with him a little bit, and ultimately how that ties into the main larger story of Future State and Teen Titans Academy. And because if I had to do it all within the pages of Titans Academy, we wouldn't get to really focus our attention on characters like the Bat Pack. The Bat Pack are a trio of goth kids or orphans from Gotham City who are obsessed with all of the Batman lore that they've heard on the streets of Gotham. And they all have these ideas about Batman. They kind of idolize Batman. And these are characters who are going to be able to get a spotlight in the book in Teen Titans Academy. And in fact, we have, obviously Rafa Sandoval is my partner on Teen Titans Academy, but we're giving him a little bit of a vacation for a couple of issues, letting him rest his drawing arm. and Steve Lieber, who's a genius, another genius, is coming in and doing some fill-in work and filling in on some issues this summer. And that storyline will get a chance to focus on the Bat Pack and who they are and what they're about and how their story ties into the main story in Teen Titans Academy. And we wouldn't necessarily get to do that if we had to sort of tell Billy's story as well within the pages of Titans Academy. So I'm just really grateful that I'm getting to do all of that, because I care so deeply about these young new characters that I've created. I want to make sure that they get out there in a way that, gives people an opportunity to decide, is this a character I want to see more of or not? Hopefully people will love the Bat Pack as much as I do and want to see more of them going forward.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about Billy Batson's Shazam is that Shazam has a very long history in the DC universe. Even in continuity, his history in the DC universe is very long. So as a part of Teen Titans Academy, where does he fit? Where really is his fit? Because technically, ignoring the age, he's been in the superhero realm in the continuity for as long as the faculty probably has been, for the most part. When you think about the continuity of when they've existed. Yeah. However, he's also new into the Academy. So where's his place in this Academy?
I'll tell you this, where Billy is in his life right now is he doesn't know why, but he cannot seem to access the powers of Shazam with any reliability. And he doesn't know why. And he's not able to find the Rock of Eternity or contact the wizard Shazam. And so he's a little bit adrift in that way. He can't share the power of Shazam with the rest of the Shazamily because he doesn't have it with any reliability. He can't contain it. And so he's in a transition period. He doesn't, and the story I wanted to tell with Billy was a story about growing up for somebody who has spent his entire life and career as a hero growing up every day. He is someone who is at an age where he looks in the mirror and he knows that one of these days he's going to be this big burly guy in his prime, and he won't be able to change back into a kid anymore because we all grow up. Right. So,
right.
So for somebody like Billy to sort of, look at his life from that perspective, even as a kid who's seen some things and seen them through the eyes of an adult, for him to figure that out is a story about, I think, that we all go through about growing up. We all, as kids, I think at some point, if we're smart, at some point we realize that there's an end date, that there's an expiration date on childhood, and the wonder and excitement and freedom that we have as children, sometimes, if we're lucky, that's gonna go away, and we're gonna have to pay bills, put on a tie and, be responsible for everything. And so for me, that's the kind of story I wanted to tell with Teen Titans Academy, and through the lens of superheroes and through somebody like Billy Batson and Shazam. For me, his story has always been about growing up, because he does it every day, and then he gets the chance. What a lot of us as adults see, this is maybe the perspective of being somebody who's not a kid anymore writing this stuff. When I was a kid, when you're a kid and you're reading Shazam, you're identifying with Billy, and you're like, how great that I get to say the magic word, and now I'm an adult with power, and I can make my own decisions, and I can do whatever I want, right? That's how you think of them when you're a kid. But when you're an adult, you're looking at it from the other side.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it from the Shazam side and thinking, how wonderful would it be to be able to put all of this away and just be a kid for 5 minutes?
Yeah.
And Billy knows that someday coming, there's a day coming when he won't be able to do that anymore.
Yeah.
That's a big moment. That's a moment of growing up. That's the kind of moment I felt when I watched Optimus Prime die in the movie theater. It was
right.
like, oh, stakes, consequences, and it's not all here forever. That's the stuff I want to talk about.
Part of me always, as someone who has a career writing comic books and writing, Transformers and He-Man and Superman, I always think, like, in some way, it's kind of like living a Shazam life. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're an adult, but you still get to transform into a kid when you get to write all this. You know what I'm saying? Like, it must be a Shazam life. And I was wondering, that's part of how you identify with the character.
That's a really, really brilliant observation that I have really honestly never considered. You're right. I basically live the life of, of Shazam or He-Man getting to turn back into, Billy and Prince Adam when I get to sit down and write these things and explore my childhood from a new angle. Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you for saying that.
No worries.
It gives me a lot to think about.
Yeah, as you were talking to me about Shazam, I was like, it basically is a Shazam life that you had. I just popped in my brain. I was like, that's being Shazam as an adult. You're saying you can't go back. I was like, you kind of are. It's
a reverse Shazam, right? Because I use the magic words, to become a kid again.
Right.
That's what I do.
So when you're thinking about Shazam has had a bit of a change over the last 10 years on his character. From the earlier Shazam, which is a very wholesome character, very wholesome Billy Batson, to a later version of Billy Batson that's a little bit more street tough version of him. You had the hooded Shazam, stuff like that. Is your version going to be closer to the original version, or are you going to say more to the hooded Shazam, kind of a streetwise version?
Well, I'll tell you this. So we talked a little bit about this earlier, I think. Future State Shazam, which I wrote, showed a very dark future, a grim future for Billy, for Shazam. And some people, really, I think, got a little upset because they think of Shazam, and they think of Billy, and they think of all the fun that you can have and how, when you're that character, and they don't like seeing a dark version of that character. And again, the purpose of that book was to show you just how big the stakes are, just so that this is always a possibility for Billy, that it can be terrible, that it can be that the good guys can lose. Like Optimus did, like that is always something we should keep in mind. But having done that now, the reason I wrote that story is so that now that we're in Teen Titans Academy and Shazam, now we get to come at it from the other direction, and we get to explore the fun of what it means to be Billy and to be Shazam. We're in the middle right now. I'm getting pages back from Clayton Henry, who's the artist I'm working with on Shazam. And I think we're working on issue 2 right now. And he's capturing all of the fun. I tried to really get the spirit of fun certainly into issue 2, and he's capturing all of it really beautifully. And so I think that people, when they open Shazam, probably in issue 1, there might be some people who go, oh, is this going to be a darker story? What is this going to be? I don't know what this is. But stick with us, because I think that you'll see that the end of the first issue, tells you the fun we're going to be having, and then we really just throw you right into the fun in issue 2. And then we, there's a lot of important stuff that's going to happen that then Billy will get to learn from and maybe grow from. So we'll see.
Well, I also think it's interesting that in the solicitors, because I have not had the opportunity to read the first Shazam, but in the solicitors I was able to read for it.
Well, no, nobody has. It's
right.
I think it's a lie.
Yes. Yeah, I would love to have had a preview of the first issue, but anyways.
I would love to have a preview of the first issue. They're still cooking on stuff. So
in this list, they talk about how Shazam, Billy Batson, is going to hide his identity from the other Teen Titan Academy members, which in the realm of teams, usually the identity is given kind of freely among the team themselves. So does he see something within the team, or maybe connection to Red X or whatever, that he feels is unsafe to let them know who he really is?
It's, with him, it's twofold, because his role at the academy, and I think the reason why he was sort of recruited to the academy is that, somebody like Nightwing and people like Starfire, like they look at Billy and they see somebody who has had a lot of experience at doing real world hero work that these kids now are learning, that it's all theory to the freshman class, and he's really been out there doing it. And so they see him as someone who can be a mentor, an older brother type of kid who's been through it. But the faculty of Teen Titans Academy does not reveal any identities to the student body. So the student body, they refer to Nightwing as Mr. Nightwing, and it's Ms. Starfire. And, they don't know that, what you and I know, that Nightwing is Dick Grayson. Spoiler alert. And so from the faculty's perspective, Billy, I think early on, he probably sort of followed their lead and didn't talk about it. Maybe, I don't know. But then really Billy's story is about about identity, and it's hard for him to really identify as Shazam anyway, because it's really impossible. It's almost impossible. It's very hard for him to reliably use his powers. So the very idea of Shazam for him is up in the air right now. He doesn't even know if he's going to be able to really ever be Shazam again. So, it's a very personal decision, I think, then for him. So yeah, so the kids around him don't really know what he's done and what he could potentially do. And so that's a mystery to them. And it's something that he's going to have to figure out. I mean, I think he took a cue from the faculty not telling their identities to the students, but then the faculty is there to sort of say to him, hey, maybe you should tell them who you are and be a mentor and lead, and maybe that's a good way for you to do it. And, of course, but it's hard for Billy to really see himself as Shazam right now. So it's complicated for him at this moment in time. So yeah, but that's sort of my angle on secret identities right now. Is the faculty is kind of keeping that information from the students.
So I want to spend just a minute or two pointing out that you are writing the upcoming Batman Long Halloween movie. So spoiler for anyone who doesn't already know that it's coming out. It's going to come out.
Yeah. Batman The Long Halloween Part 1. I think June 22nd. It'll be digital and Blu-ray. It'll be available same day for digital and for Blu-ray. So and then there'll be a Part 2 coming later. But yeah, that was one of the greatest thrills of my life, is getting to adapt that story for the screen. So
there's another instance where you're more than welcome to give a signal to the fans who are watching, of any kind of secrets. But when I was thinking about Batman The Long Halloween, one of the DVD movies of DC that popped in my brain was Batman Hush. In other words, they took a storyline that's well known, but they did change it, put ingredients towards the end of it to keep it new for the viewers who have already read the comic books. When you're writing The Long Halloween, are you following a similar format where it's going to be basically what you know, but significant changes so it's still new to the readers who have read it?
Well, let me be very clear. Like I am under strict, gag order on Long Halloween Part 1. I can't really talk about anything about it except to say that I'm so thrilled that I got to work on it. And more information is going to be coming out. In fact, if you want more information about it, there is, I believe it's like 10 minutes long of a sneak peek that came out the day that you and I are recording this right now as part of the next movie, Justice Society World War II. And so one of the special features on Justice Society World War II is a 10-minute sneak peek at The Long Halloween Part 1. So that should hopefully be able to give people some idea of where we're heading and what we're doing. And then, then I'll come back and answer some more questions if you want after everybody checks that out.
Well, I'm going to ask one more question that you can't answer. So DC animated movies tend to fall into two different categories. There's ones that exist within the larger continuity of their universe, and ones that live in a standalone universe. For anyone who's watched like the Dark Side War movies and some of the other ones that live within the like Paradox, the Flashpoint Paradox ones that live within a larger universe. Does the Long Halloween movie exist within the larger universe, or is it going to be a standalone universe that exists?
No, I can't, I can't really talk. Yeah, like you said, I can't answer any questions. So I can't answer the question, but I will say this, that I have been online today, the day that Justice Society World War II came out, and there seem to be a lot of definitive opinions today about that. So I don't know if those opinions are correct or not, but all you need to do is go online and check out and see what people are saying and maybe engage in the conversation. But yeah, that's my clever way of not answering your questions.
Totally fine. But okay.
But again, I haven't seen. So I could also just like speculate with you if I wanted to, but I haven't seen Justice Society World War II yet. It was written by friends of mine, Jeremy Adams, who is right now writing the Flash book for DC Comics, and Megan Fitzmartin. Both of them, by the way, they were writers on Supernatural, and Jeremy had a movie out earlier this year, Soul of the Dragon, a Batman movie that he did with Bruce Timm. And he's got a lot of great stuff happening. So I can't wait to see it. Producer Jim Krieg was a great friend of mine. Butch Luckett, produced Justice Society World War II. I worked with him on Superman, Man of Tomorrow, and Long Halloween Part 1. So these are all my friends, and I'm cheering them on. And that's why I'm telling you and your listeners to check out this movie, which is getting rave reviews today, to the point where I'm just jealous beyond belief.
This one, I know you can answer this question about Long Halloween. I know you can. I'm a huge Supernatural nerd. I've been watching it. Actually, I started watching it season 2, but I've been watching it. I have all the seasons. I own them all. Anyone who knows the show knows I interview people from Supernatural all day long. Jensen Ackles is Batman in the Long Halloween. So tell me what you know of it. Not for you know it, but let's tell me what you've already experienced.
I'm going to get in trouble, but I will simply say that the day that I went to the first record with Jensen as Batman, I sat in the booth, which writers don't always get to do. And I was very fortunate to be invited in by the brilliant voice director and Wes Gleason, and also supervising producer Butch Luckett, and director Chris Palmer. And I sat there, and I think it must have had to be his very first line that he recorded. And I just, this smile that you can see right now on my face is what was immediately. I was running around the studio like a little kid, because I knew Jensen's work, and I knew, as Red Hood and everything else, I knew that he was a great choice to take on Batman at this particular moment in time in his career. But I was very happy to have my what I knew, quote unquote, proven so right, and by Jensen's work. I grinned like a little kid. I called people who were in the know on the production, and just could not stop raving and how happy I was. And I said, this Jensen to me sets a new standard for a new age and a new time with Batman. And I'm a guy who's worked with the best. Yeah. I've worked with Kevin Conroy and Dietrich Bader, and I think Jensen is right up there. He's terrific. Oh, and Jason O'Mara too is great. But Jensen is right up there, man. He really is.
Well, for our listeners, you already know the voice of Jensen Ackles, not just from Supernatural, but if you ever watch Batman Under the Red Hood, he plays Jason Todd, and he kills it as Jason Todd. And I'm assuming, and it sounds like he killed it as Batman in The Long Halloween.
In my opinion, certainly, he certainly made this writer very, very happy that the brilliant people who cast the movie went with Jensen, who was born to play Batman.
Well, I can't wait to see that movie, and hopefully when it's ready to come out, you can come back on and talk to me about it again. That would be fantastic.
When they take the shackles off and I can finally talk about things. Yes.
And we'll talk about the next movie you can't talk about as well. After that. But I
can't even confirm if there are any more movies after that.
Well, Tim, I think I had a great pleasure talking to you. You're great fun.
I had a terrific time. I mean, I think you're going to have to edit the heck out of this because we've been chatting for a million years. People are going to be so bored.
We'll keep it in chapter. It'll be probably a 3-part episode.
All right.
Well, we're keeping the content.
Very grateful. Thank you so much, and all the best to you and your listeners.
Thank you so much. Have a very good night.
Spaghetti. And we're back.
That's right. We are back. Back in the saddle again. Well, I hope you guys really, really enjoyed that as much as we did making it for you. And if you like what you heard and you want to hear more, you got to go check out spoilerverse.com, because at spoilerverse.com we have a plethora amazing directors and artists of all walks of life, and editors and writers, and oh my god, are you a lover of comic books like we are? Then there's so many amazing people from the comic book world over at spoilerverse.com, and I highly implore you to go there and check it out.
Yeah, and while you're there, you can check out all the other podcasts on our network, like Bridges and Geekdoms and Funny Book Forensics and Haphazard Adventures and Nerds from the Crypt and so many more.
Misery
We put out
Point
episodes
Radio.
all the time. Go check all of them out, and check out all of the reviews and previews and articles we have going up every single day for you, every day on spoilerverse.com for you to check out and to read and to love and to like and to comment. We have a store link. If you want to help support the site, you can do it 2 ways. One, go to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/spoilercountry, or go to our store link in the middle of the site there and get a t-shirt, a face mask, a hoodie, something, look fly as hell, and help support the site when you do that, because we get $1 or $2. And, maybe you want to talk to us. If you do, you can do it obviously on all the socials, but if you go to scpod.us/Discord, you can join our public Discord server and come and chat with us all day long.
I couldn't say it better myself, dude.
There you go.
You just mouthed out a ton of information at once, and really I hope you guys enjoy what you're hearing, because we're working our butts off to bring it to you.
We are.
I guess there's only one left thing. Yeah, I'm gonna go with it. There's only one left thing left to do.
What's that?
In an oceans of podcasts,
We are Cthulhu.
as Cthulhu compels you to
Spaghetti. Open the mind.
and read more.
Spaghetti.